Hello, welcome back to the Bleeping Mechanic. My name's Kyle. We got ourselves another project to work on. Let's talk about it. So right off the bat, I know there's no battery on this thing. So we won't get any lights or nothing. I know it's in neutral because, well, it's not neutral. There is no neutral. Well, take it back. There is neutral. There's high and low, and then there's shifting. You've got 5 speeds up, 5 speeds back down to 1, and then the neutral at the very bottom. So I know it's in neutral because I clicked it all the way down as many times as possible, and it won't go any further. So you've got a high, low, and reverse range. Right now it's just sitting in low, just because it's there. You got a recoil start here, as I said. It's got very much compression, and it's a 350cc one. Same motor that's in this is inside of the Wolverine, which was not the Wolverine, sorry, though they did put it in the Wolverine. The Warrior, this is the one I was talking about. It's got an air oil cooler to help keep it running a little cooler because it is such a large air-cooled motor. So let's go ahead and break this thing down. Let's get into the seat compartment. Hopefully you don't find any kind of nest or anything. Plenty of little bugs. Let's go ahead and get this airbox cover off. We'll check the oil real quick and just make sure nothing looks catastrophic to begin with. All right, so let's double check this oil real quick. I see oil. I see oil in a dipstick. Oil is definitely used, but I've seen way worse. It does have a faint smell of some gas, so might have be some for a 94 I could expect the rings to have a little wear and tear. And then the airbox, I pulled the screws off, and then we have no air filter. We just got the screen, so the filter element, we will have to get one of those. So we'll have to order a new one. But not too worried about that because I'm pretty sure, as I mentioned, there's no electric start. It can only pull start. And I've already tried pull starting this once and about ripped my shoulder off 6 times just doing it that one time. So what we're going to do is we're going to test the electric start and see if at least that works. Let me make sure there's nothing inside these tubes going into the intake so we don't suck in like some foam, which there is none, or any mice nests or anything like that. Actually looks pretty clean inside there. Nothing too bad. Intake tube looks clean. Going to the carb looks clean. The area around the carb looks filthy as can be, so I'm guessing there's been some leakage of something, who knows, at one point in time. Definitely filthy. So I got a feeling we're going to have to pop that off and give that thing a good cleaning. So the airbox looks fine though, other than it's missing a filter, so it could have been sucking in some garbage. So it's possible the carb's got some clogged passageways. I just got to know that carb, just staring at it, it's going to be a problem. So let's go ahead and grab a battery and some jumper cables and see if we can get this thing to crank over. All right, so went ahead and got some starter fluid. The battery, I went ahead and put the battery charger on it because it's a little low. So I got the battery charger on there doing a rapid charge, and the jumper cables are connected to the battery. Going to give this a spritz inside here. All right. And let's see if this thing's got any life in it. So I'm just going to put on jump real quick. Let's see what we got. Sweet. Okay, that's a good sign. All right, happy about that. Let me turn this off real quick. All right. Okay, I'm good with that. All right, so we know the machine will fire on starter fluid. So let's go ahead, let's check the spark plug, and then let's check the fuel. I'm pretty sure that fuel is shit. We're gonna just dump it out. All right, pulled the plug out. It is a NGK DR8ES-L. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab a new one of those because as you can see, it's pretty well chalked up. Got lots of carbon on there. So I'm gonna grab a new one of those, pop in this thing. And then I'm going to work on getting that carb off and start cleaning that up. So let's go ahead and do that right now. So to get the carburetor off, we have a clamp here with a Phillips drive that we got to undo. But in the front, we have two studs and nuts that would take off. So I'm going to go ahead and loosen this up nice and quite a bit. I'm going to take off the fuel line, and then on top of that, we've got the throttle line up here in the front, but I'm going to try to do that after, if I can have enough room, pull this down. So we have to get to these two front bolts to get the front of the carb off. So I tried to get the 12 millimeter nuts off the boot, but they're not coming free. So I'm actually going after the 6 millimeter hex drive that is connecting it to the head, because those are actually coming free a little bit. When I was twisting those nuts on the front, the stud that goes into the carburetor, it just was twisting the boot, and I'm afraid of breaking the boot. There we go, got one of those off. Grab my parts bin and we'll do the one on the other side. All right, so we got the carb free from the engine. Let's squeeze this boot to pull this back a little bit. There we go. So I'm gonna take off the fuel line. There we go. There is a breather hose right here. And the last thing that's left, there's an overflow on the bottom. All right. And then the last thing that's left is the actual throttle cable, which I'm going to see if I can get this out far enough. Right here. So it looks like we have a Phillips screw holding the bracket down, so we'll go ahead and get that off of there. So at least we can get this nice and far out of here. Just a single Phillips screw right there. Then once we get this off, we can open up the side cover. Of course, these are always going to fight you. Yep. You can sense the stripping going to commence on that. So I'm going to take the side cover off first. Hopefully that comes off. This is where all the linkages connect to. Woo-wee! Yeah, I had a feeling. All right, that one's free. That one is not coming free. We're gonna use the vice grips to get each one to kind of free up a little bit rather than just immediately spring. There we go. And then the Phillips should help loosen it up a little bit faster after that. There we go. So now everything's loosened. It all comes out nice and easy. So now we should be able to take this side cover off. And you can see the cable and the linkage in here and how this works. So we're just going to open this up so we can get this cable off of there. And now, through some finesse, we're going to try to get oh, I see. This just comes off here. So, oh, just drop that. That's awesome. That comes out of there. Carb is free. We're going to take that over to the bench, get this rubber off, and get this thing opened up. So we've got the carb on the table now. And what we're going to do is we're going to start disassembling this, keeping all the pieces together. We've got some clear plastic baggies if we need to. And we're going to disassemble all the parts off this so we can put it inside of our ultrasonic cleaner. So let's go ahead and just start doing this. I'm going to start with the bowl first. And we're going to be right with the same process as we had to do on the other one. Use the pliers to free up all these screws because they just want to twist. There we go. They're all moving just enough. Man, that was something. Every single screw on this thing has been a complete and utter nightmare. Bowl is free. See how bad it looks on the inside. Oh, wow. I can't really tell, but that is not bad. That's actually bone dry. I wonder if our petcock is actually the problem because there has not been getting any fuel into there. And I poured some new fuel into that. So I poured new fuel into this, unless that float was sticking. But we have not been getting any fuel into this bowl. All right, so I went ahead and turned on the petcock. On, nothing comes out. On reserve, I got a little spurt and that was it. And this is what's in the tank, which that is not good. So we're gonna drain out what's in the tank, but I gotta remove that petcock. The screen is probably all clogged up with some sand or something because I had to shake it back and forth the whole machine to get a little bit more to come out, and it stopped, a little bit more to come out. So let's go ahead and remove that petcock and get all this gas out of there. So this is the petcock here, and it's usually held on by two very large Phillips screws. Let's see if we can get those free. When I say very large, I mean like not a number 2, but like a number 3. So let me go grab a number 3 real quick. So we're going to take a number 3 Phillips head, and that fits in there nice and snug. Then we're going to take a 1/4 inch drive socket. And use the ratchet. There you go. Much better way than using a screwdriver too. You get a lot more torque on it. You can also push harder up on the screw. I can already feel it dripping down on me. Both screws are out. Take our little bowl. Oh yeah, there's some gunk surrounding the reserve side for sure. Real bad. Let's get the rest of this gas out of here. So we finished getting all the crap gas out of there. Cleaned the petcock off. The screen was full of crud and we got that all cleaned up. So we're going to put some fresh gas in here, reassemble the carb, put it back together now that the petcock's actually flowing again, and see if we're any better. All right, so we're starting to put back the carb back on it. We got now good fuel, clean petcock, cleaned out all the ports with some carb cleaner on the carb, and we're just reassembling the cable assembly first, which was pushing this back up, putting the little brass end on the cable, and then putting it back into the hole through the groove. So now we're just going to get the cable mount on next. Back on and in position. And what we got to do, because all these screws are basically just full of rust and very tight, I get them nice and snug with the screwdriver, and then I'm using some channel locks and just doing a last little 45-degree turn. All right, so let's go ahead and get the cover side back on now. And get those 6 screws back in. This is in the way. go. Put those guys back in. And the main reason we're not just replacing this with an Amazon cheap carb, because this is the original Minkuni, and these are much higher quality carbs with a better chance of it lasting a lot longer. Just gonna get them started by hand first. Same thing, I'm gonna get these all snugged, and then just a little 45-degree turn with the pliers. Plus, we don't want to crack the plastic either. All right, and then we're just going to do the quick little tighten and turn. Hopefully, we shouldn't have to take this apart anytime soon. The carb actually looked pretty clean. So I don't know if that was 100% the problem, as more as the petcock. And then we still got to address the electric start, which I've got some components to help fix that. All right, so there's that. So we have a breather tube right up here. Get this back in the right way. So we have a little breather tube here, as well as a drain tube at the bottom that we need to slide back on. This goes here. Just get that in place. There we go. Drain tube in the bottom. All right. Then line these intake boot like so. And align the boot with the gasket onto the block. And then we'll put our bolts back in. All right, get these started in by hand. And then we'll get them snugged up. Last thing we gotta do is just tighten the clamp that's holding it to the airbox. All right, carb's all set. We'll do the gas, but let's go ahead and start working on that electric start. So we're back here by the battery tray. I got a battery for it. I don't mind this connection. This connection looks good. But this one here isn't, I'm not thrilled with it. It's got a lot of corrosion, but the bigger part is this huge eyelet on it. All these batteries have much smaller screws, and that's gonna fit right over top, and I'll have to do a washer, and I'm not a big fan of that, so I'm gonna see if I've got a replacement for that. And then the other thing too is our solenoid. I'm gonna get this mounted up. You gotta get it routed better, because right now it's routing low into the ground along the frame. So there's a spot right here where it gets mounted up. So we'll get that mounted up as well. So I'm just disconnecting the solenoid real quick. There's a little 2-wire prong here. There's also a short small gauge wire that goes to the accessories and powers of everything else. And then I'm going to take off the main power lead going towards the starter. And part of the reason I'm doing this is because, I'll show you real quick, these connections are quite bad. So we're going to clean up all these connections. And the fastest way to destroy a starter, burn out a wire, burn out a solenoid, is to have bad connection for your power to go through. So just going to do this real quick. Clean these all up. If they look like they're fine, clean them up. If they don't look like they're fine, cut on new ones. So here's our old solenoid, so we're going to replace that and put on a new one as well. So it looks like somebody might have already redone a few of these, because that connector doesn't look that great. This connector doesn't look that great. So there's a small little quick disconnect there. So I'm going to go ahead and redo these connectors real quick and put on new ends. And I've got my connector bin over here with a bunch of new connectors on there. So I'm going to go ahead and clean this up real fast. So I'm just going to open up this connector on this side. This is the one that the loop is too big for the battery. I don't see how this is even connected, because this just doesn't make sense to me. It's like a connector in a connector. That's very odd. And this one, I mean, it could be factory. Just doesn't seem like it. So yeah, there used to be a connector on that corroded off, and somebody put a big ass connector over it. Yeah, that's not making a good connection. So let's go ahead and finish taking this connector off of here and put a new end on there. All right, so we've gone ahead and replaced the end of this with the new battery lug kit, some brass lugs, and then this little hammer controlled, put it in there, hit it nice and hard, and it puts a nice dent in there, really nice and good. So, good end on there. This end was already good, cleaned up, tightened it on there. Let's go ahead and get the other side back on the four-wheeler. So here is the other end of the wire. And we're going to go ahead and get this connected to the solenoid. So the big key here is to have good, nice, tight connections all the way up to the starter from the battery. So we're going to go ahead and swing this up and plug it back in. And also plug this side back in. All right, let's go ahead and get our battery in. The solenoid has two very large rubber slots, and we have some very large heavy-duty zip ties that will hold it to the frame. One for the top and one for the bottom. There we go. Trim off that excess. Then our solenoid is sitting in there comfortably. All right, now that we have everything back together, got some fresh gas in there. Make sure nothing's leaking. So far, so good. Connected, okay. I think we're ready to give it a whirl. See what happens. Let's put the choke on. Ooh, good sign. One choke down. Something seems to be holding open. Something's giving it a lot of fuel. Trying to adjust this idle. It's a pretty sticky idle. Seems to be pretty well crammed up in there, so I think it's maxed out. All right, let's see what we've got. Fuel's on. And battery's hooked up. New air filter. All right. Choke on. Turn the choke off. Gas had to get through the system. Sweet. All right. So when I first started it, after I put the carb back together, after cleaning the inside of it, it revved up, just skyrocketing. And what I found out was the throttle linkage inside the side here, it wasn't letting the slide in the carb come all the way down, so it's sitting up just a smidgen, which is basically like holding the throttle open a little bit more. Now it's purring like a kitten. I might need to bring the idle up a little bit. I'm gonna let it run for a minute. It's been a while. Let this thing get warmed up before I hammer on it too much, because that piston, even though it's rotated a few times, hasn't been warmed up, the whole cylinder. So I'm gonna just let it idle and warm up a little bit before I start tinkering too hard. I'm just gonna make sure I have everything off of it real quick so I can put the seat back on. can hear it takes a little bit for it to come down. I think everything's just kind of sticking a little bit, but once we move stuff around, get it warmed up, we're gonna take it for a quick test drive. I'm gonna add some air into these tires real quick. I'm gonna take a spray bottle, some soapy water, and see if I can find the leak on this tire. All right. So I've checked the oil and there is oil in it, so, but now that it starts up, runs good, it's idling good, we're going to take it for a quick test ride. That's all 6 gears. I'm in low range, so I can run them in all 6 gears pretty easily. Thing runs good, has lots of power. Let's see, the back brakes, I need to adjust the back brakes a little bit. Slows down but doesn't really stop. Fronts do a lot better. All right, we're in neutral. Let's move it up to high range now. All right. Let's adjust these backs a little bit. All right, down to neutral. So for the back brakes, there's these little wing nuts down here. There's 2 of them. One's for the pedal and one's for the handle. Rear rack's making a little bit of rattling noise, so I'm going to go find a loose bolt. So the last thing we're going to do is we're going to change the oil of this. We just finished running it for about 10 or 15 minutes, get those fluids moving, and now we're going to go ahead and drain it out. It uses about 3.5 quarts, so I'm actually have to use my drain pan. So this is a wet clutch system. And it's 1 drain plug, and it does the whole system between 3 and 3.5 quarts. So you have to make sure to run special ATV. And what we're going to be running is this, which is Valvoline Full Synthetic 1040. And when you see it, it specifically says right here, designed specifically for high performance, 10 times better friction for maximum power transfer, smooth shifting, and wet clutch transmissions. And that's the key thing, is that wet clutch transmission. So we're going to put in 3.5 quarts of this. So the oil looks I mean, well used. There might even be a little bit of smell of gasoline in there, which is possible, especially if the previous carb and everything was dripping gas back through, or if it was flooding it up, because that previous carb, the carb was loading up. When I first turned on, it was revving a bunch. I think the slide was held up and it was pumping some fuel down and into the cylinder. So it's good to get this stuff out of here. So there is a mesh screen on here as well. I'll show you that. So what you have is you have cap, washer, and a mesh screen. There's a little like particulate in there, but no metal chunks, which is good. There's just like some dirt, and some of that could have been when it fell into my pan. So it goes like this and goes up in there. So this is actually does have a pressurized pump in there that helps move it through, because it does have an auxiliary cooler. Always shake up your oil. This is just me, but sometimes if it sits on the shelf for a while, you can get some of the different stuff kind of settle. So it's not really needed. It should be fine, but I just do it. It's better safe than sorry. And it says between 3.1 to 3.5 quarts. So we'll just check it after we get the third quart in. So right now we're actually slightly above the line, but we got to run this because it drained some of it out of that cooler. So let's go ahead and run this and see what happens. We should be right in a perfect spot. That's 3 quarts. All right, let's see where we're at now. Don't want to lose our little O-ring. So let's just check it real quick. Ooh, we're right there. Literally right at the top of the line. And that oil looks nice and great. Perfect. So one of the last things that we're going to tackle is this front tire. It had a little leak in it. Now I don't know exactly where that little leak was coming from, so what I do is I just make up a bottle, spray bottle with soapy water, and spray it down. And what I look for is bubbles coming out. So that internal, so it's either tight, or not tight, or loose, or bad, the Schrader valve. So I'm going to go ahead and replace that. So it looks like it was just loose. Could probably just tighten it up, but I got a new one. I got these. And this is what it looks like right here. So what it is, that Schrader valve is just a little, this is what allows air to go in and not come back out. That goes inside there. And a special little tool that has a little slotted end. Puts it in and tightens it up. There we go, nice and snug. Now, we'll add some more air and see if it's leaking. Alright, we went ahead and added about 10 psi. No more bubbles. Alright, that's taken care of. So that completes it for this project. This Big Bear 350 is ready to ride. I mean, this thing is actually a really nice machine for being as old as it is. I mean, it's not in perfect shape, but it's going to get out on the trails and it's going to do some work. That's going to wrap it up for this video, guys. I appreciate you watching, and make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you like what you saw and want to see some more. So as people keep bringing me stuff that they want me to check out, fix, and get going, I'm going to keep recording videos. So thank you again. We'll see you on the next one. Have a great day.